Welcome back to our conversation about life on Acreage property in West Houston. If you have not seen part 1 of this video, go ahead and click the link in my description below. And if you are ready for the second half of our talk, let's go ahead and jump right in. As always, my name is Raquel Bell, your trusted friend in real estate right here in West Houston. So let's pick up right where we left off and start with the new responsibilities you will have as an Acreage homeowner. Here is something that surprises buyers more than almost anything else on this list. And it is the most obvious thing in the world once you think about it. Half an acre or more of land can be a lot of land to maintain. I say that not to make it sound daunting. However, as a caution, I have watched buyers move onto Acreage and genuinely underestimate what it takes to keep it looking the way it looked when they first drove through. Lawn service on an acre is not the same as mowing a city lot. You're looking at about $400 or more a month for a professional crew, or the investment in a good riding lawnmower, which costs between $2,000 and $5,000 plus your time and the cost of fuel. For a lot of buyers, the trade-off is completely worth it. They love the land and they love maintaining it. However, go in knowing what you are choosing. Trees are another one. Communities like Fullbrook, Fulshear Run, and Weston Lakes have beautiful mature pecan trees and live oaks, and those trees are a huge part of why people fall in love. But a mature tree that needs to come down is not a weekend DIY project. Tree removal costs can run from $500 on the low end all the way to $5,000 or more per tree, depending upon the size and the location. When a tree is diseased or damaged after a storm, you do not always get to wait and choose the timing. Now let's talk about insurance, because this is another area where Acreage buyers are regularly caught off guard, and it affects your monthly payment more than most buyers realize before they start shopping for coverage. Homeowners insurance on Acreage is not always the same as homeowners insurance on a subdivision lot. Rural properties are often clarified differently by insurance carriers, which can affect your premium. If your home runs on a well, some carriers require a specific rider to cover the well equipment and pump. In certain rural classifications, you may find that fewer carriers are willing to write the policy at all, which reduces your competition and your negotiation power on price. My advice: do not wait until you're under contract to start shopping for insurance on an Acreage property. Get quotes early. Know what the coverage looks like for that specific area while you are touring homes. This is one of those things that is easy to handle when you have time and very stressful when you do not. Flood insurance is the other one I want to make sure you understand, especially in Fort Bend County, which has complex and detailed flood maps. Some Acreage parcels that look rural, elevated, and wide open are still in or adjacent to a designated flood zone. And if your property requires flood insurance, that is an additional premium on top of your homeowner's policy, which can run anywhere from $500 to $3,000 or more per year, depending upon the zone and the coverage level. All right, this one, internet access. Because in today's world, this is not a minor inconvenience. For a lot of families, this is a lifestyle-defining issue. When you move onto Acreage in West Houston, especially in the more rural pockets of Fulshear and the surrounding areas, you may not have access to the same high-speed fiber or cable internet you had in your last home. Some Acreage addresses are well served. Others will surprise you at how limited options are when you actually start researching the specific address. I have had buyers, professionals who work entirely from home, families with kids in virtual learning programs discover this after they were already emotionally committed to a property. That is a hard conversation, and it is one I try to have long before anyone is under contract. The good news is, options have genuinely improved. Starlink satellite internet has been a real solution for a lot of rural homeowners out here. And depending on your location, fixed wireless providers can also deliver solid speeds. However, here's what I need you to do. Verify internet coverage at the specific address before you make an offer. Not the zip code, not the general area, the address. Those two things can give you very different answers in rural West Houston. Put that on your checklist right next to the well inspection and the flood zone. Let's talk about your new neighbors. And I do not mean the people down the road. When you choose Acreage living in this part of Texas, you are choosing to share your space with nature. Most of the time, genuinely, this is one of the most beautiful things about Acreage living. During your front yard in the morning or evenings, birds you have never seen before, a sky full of lights at night that you simply cannot find in a subdivision. That part absolutely lives up to everything you are imagining. I promise you. But there is another side of it that nobody puts in the listing description, and I want to be real with you about what that looks like day to day, because you deserve to know. Depending on exactly where you are, your community may have alligators. I say that plainly because if you are relocating from out of state or from an urban area, this may genuinely not be on your radar. Alligators are native to this region, and they show up in ponds, drainage, ditches, and occasionally places you would not expect. Most of the time, they are not aggressive, and they move along on their own. However, if you have small children or pets, that is something you need to know about and think through before you make a decision. Snakes are common out here as well. Clients of mine have found them at their front door, in their garage, and in the yard on a fairly regular basis. The majority are non-venomous, and honestly, they are doing you a favor by keeping the rodent population down. But if snakes are a firm no for you, Acreage life is going to be a real adjustment. Trust me, I know all too well. Let's talk about wild hogs. They are a real issue in certain parts of this area. And I want to say that clearly because feral hogs are not a cute wildlife sighting. They are destructive. They can tear up your landscaping, root through your yard overnight, and cause damage that costs real money to repair. There are professional wildlife services that handle trapping and removing them as well. However, it is absolutely worth asking about for any Acreage property you're seriously considering. Now let's talk raccoons. They will find their way into your attic, your crawl spaces, and anywhere else they can access. Wildlife removal services are not an emergency expense for Acreage homeowners. They are a maintenance budget line. Just plan for it from the beginning. And then there are the everyday things. Fire ants at a scale that will surprise you. Wasps, spiders, mosquitoes, that's a different category entirely. A quarterly pest control service out here is not optional. It is a part of what it costs to live this lifestyle well, and it is worth every penny. Budget $150 to $300 per quarter and build it into your budget from day one. Here's what I always tell my buyers about this topic. None of this is a reason to walk away from land. It is a reason to walk in prepared. The families who love Acreage the most, the ones who call me years later and say it was the best decision they ever made, are the ones who expected all of this. They planned for it, they laughed about it, and they decided the trade-off was completely and absolutely worth it. And for the right person, it genuinely is. Here's something to think about. And this one is a little different from everything else we have talked about because it's not about the property itself. It is about what is happening around it. Fulshear, Texas was a small town not that long ago. It is still beautiful, do not get me wrong. However, it is also one of the fastest growing cities in the United States, and that growth does not stop at the edges of your Acreage community. The rural land surrounding your home today may not look the same in 3 years, 5, or even 10. I have watched buyers fall in love with the idea of being surrounded by open fields. And then they watch those fields turn into new subdivision, retail corridors, and busier roads faster than they ever anticipated. The pace of life they bought into shifted, not because the community changed, because the world right outside of it did. Now, that is not necessarily a bad thing. Development brings new restaurants, better roads, improved services, and often real estate appreciation in your property's value. Many of my buyers have benefited enormously from getting into land communities early, before the area built out around them. That is a wealth building move, and I have seen it play out beautifully. However, I want you to go in with eyes open. If your primary motivation for choosing Acreage is to escape the pace and the noise of the city, that is a completely valid and beautiful reason. I just want you to research the growth trajectory of that specific area you're buying into. Look at what is being planned along the surrounding roads. Ask me what I have seen happening in that corridor over the last few years, because that conversation before you write an offer leads to a discussion you will feel good about, not just on move-in day, but for years to come. Last thing, and I promise we're gonna wrap this up. Acreage properties have a smaller buyer pool than traditional subdivision homes. This is just a reality of our market. When it comes time for you to sell, whether that is in 5 years or 20, your home will appeal to a specific type of buyer rather than the broadest possible market. That is not a problem, but it is something worth understanding going in because it affects how you make decisions about what you invest in on the property, how you price when you eventually sell, and what days on the market might look like. The buyers who do best with Acreage from a financial perspective are the ones who buy thoughtfully in communities with strong reputations, in areas with positive growth trajectories, and with improvements that serve the Acreage lifestyle rather than over improving for the area. Those are all conversations I have with my buyers before they close, not after. Acreage in the right community, bought at the right price with clear eyes about all of the things we talked about today, that is one of the strongest long-term real estate investments you can make in West Houston. I have watched it happen over and over for families out here. I just want to make sure it happens that way for you. Before we close, because I do not want you to leave this video feeling like I spent all this time trying to talk you out of land. I love Acreage. I live on Acreage, And I love what it does for families. I love the way kids grow up differently when they have the space to run and explore and just be outside. I love the quiet, the sky, the breathing room you simply cannot buy in a traditional subdivision. For the right buyer, and there are so many right buyers for this lifestyle, it is one of the best decisions they and I have ever made. What I wanted to give you today is what a good trusted friend in real estate would give you before you sign anything. The real picture, the full cost, the things that makes this lifestyle wonderful, and the things that make it a real grown-up responsibility that deserves to be planned for. So do me a favor, drop a comment below and tell me where you are in your search. Tell me what question came up for you in this video that you still need answered. I read every single comment and I will answer. And if you are ready to have a real conversation about finding the right acreage community for you and your family, one where all of these things line up in your favor and the decision feels right on every level, my information is below. Give me a call, send me a message, or shoot me a text. I am ready to chat. Until next time.